Good morning, beautiful people. How are you all today? I hope you're well. Yay! Finally, it looks like the storms have done their thing and they've trotted off somewhere else. Checking the weather forecast this morning, it looks like we've got a lovely 2-week stretch of pretty mild temperatures and mostly dry. So I can get on with a job that I was supposed to do, a week ago. But before I get into that, I just had to sort of remind myself by putting the tin right next to me to fill up all my bird feeders. And it's worth thinking about it this time of year. Because obviously, if you've had feeders out over the whole winter, the birds have become accustomed to coming to you for food. So if you suddenly cut off their supply, poor birds. But also, it's around this time of year where we start to do big tidy-ups in the garden. So a lot of that dead material from last year's perennials, we're starting to cut back to let that new growth come through, like I was doing a few weeks ago with in my herb bed and with the verbena. The thing about our tidy up now is we're actually removing some of the food source for the birds, for certain birds, where we're removing those seed heads. Also, all of that dead growth is harbouring insects, which some of the birds will be feeding on. So just bear in mind, although you might be cutting things down, don't be in too much of a hurry to be too tidy. If you can leave a pile of it somewhere, great. A little bit of habitat for insects, a little bit of food supply for the birds. But also, we're getting into that time of year now where the birds are going to be starting to couple up, starting to build nests. So a lot of that sort of dead foliage as well is really useful nesting material for the birds. Obviously, different birds use different materials. What I'm just saying is, don't be too tidy in your garden. I'm not necessarily saying have your mound of rubbish right in the middle of your garden, right in your eye line, but if you've got quiet corners tucked away, leave material there for the wildlife. So that's one of my first jobs of the day today is to top up my bird feeders. But my main job of today, I think it's possibly my least favourite job in the garden. I'm going to just have a swig of water and gird myself for it. I feel like I should have a slug of gin to gird myself for it. I assure you it's not gin. Get my potato trenches sorted. Now, I know that there are people screaming at me right now, don't bother doing trenches, you need to go no dig, I don't have the material to do it that way. The problem with my soil is, look, I am looking after my soil over the years. I'm always adding, every ounce of compost I can make goes into the ground. Green manures over winter to protect my soil. I'm doing everything I can do with the resources I've got available, mulching, all those things to protect my soil and to give the worms something to chow down on and take into my soil. But despite my best efforts, my soil is still really heavy and gets so compact. Even without me walking on it, it just gets solid. So 3 years ago, I had to work this out as I was walking down here. It's 3 years ago right now that I was doing my potatoes post broken wrists. I broke both my wrists in the November of the year before. I came out of my casts at the end of January, but both my wrists were really damaged still, so I went into metal splints. So when it came to the time to get my spud trenches done, there was no way I could dig. I couldn't manipulate the spade. I couldn't even manage a rake to sort of hoik some of the soil aside. So what I used was a bulb planter. I thought, you know, this is better than nothing, give it a go. So I wasn't able to dig down, so at least with this I was able to get the spuds, oh, maybe about 6 inches down. It was my worst harvest of spuds ever, because I'd only got them quite a shallow depth, and then I didn't have all that soil spoil from trenches to then drag over them to earth them up as they were growing. Firstly, I had very few potatoes, and secondly, they were so near the surface of the soil that most of them went green because they'd had the sunlight on them. Despite, like I say, best efforts of trying to cover them, I did get some grass clippings and try to use those, but there was just not enough to do any proper earthing up. So I ended up with very few spuds, and most of them were green. So it's one of those situations where I just have to dig spud trenches. The idea is I want to get the spud quite deep down, because where I'm going to get my new harvest of potatoes from, as that plant grows up and up and up, the new spuds are going to come off the side. So if I've got no depth, there's nowhere for them to grow, as it were. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to get on with that today. I don't know whether I will actually plant my spuds today or not. We'll see how we get on. The other thing is, well, firstly, I'm going to be peeling the cardboard back, so there's going to be leaves and stuff to get out of the way. Hopefully some of it will have composted and gone into the soil, which would be great. But then, after digging the trenches, I won't do anything else, because potatoes they don't like an alkaline soil. So, oh, actually, talking of alkaline acid, testing your soil, Cliff of Castle Hill Gardens did a really great video a couple of weeks ago on showing how to test your soil, and it's well worth it. So if we think of neutral as pH 7, most of my garden is a pH between 6 and 7, so mostly between 6 and 6.5. The more we use, the more likely we are to go into that acid scale. What potatoes don't like is if we go slightly alkaline. So when you're doing your spuds, it's best to avoid any beds which have been recently either limed or freshly manured. Even if the manure is really well rotted manure, they're not going to like it. In fact, it's best to avoid those beds for at least a year, if not a couple of years. So for instance, we might lime our beds for our brassicas because they like it. So it's best not to follow your brassicas with potatoes. I'm not going to go too much into rotation. It's a whole minefield. I don't worry too much about it. All I know is I'm not going to put my potatoes where I've either limed or freshly manured within the last year, preferably even 2 years. The problem with if you do use lime or the freshly manured bed is your potatoes are going to be prone to scab. Now, the thing about scab is it shouldn't affect your yield, as in the spuds will still grow, but they're pretty rank looking when they come out, and I think for most people they're just so off-putting they don't really want to eat them. Or you peel them so much that you're left with a teeny tiny spud. Oh, that's a big aeroplane of some sort. Hang on a second. Oh, I can't see it. Sounds like an old biplane or something. Anyway, yeah, so I mean, I don't worry too much. I've had a little bit of scab in the past and just eat it anyway. But yes, there we go. So avoid lime, avoid manure. I'll just get the trenches open and then I'll start planting them. There was compost added last year because that was the squash bed last year, so they did have quite a lot of compost added. So hopefully that's helped with breaking up my soil a little bit. But there's only one way to find out for sure, and that's to get out there with the spade. I think we might need our wellies again today. Right, well, first things first, let's remove all the clobber that I was using to hold down all the cardboard. I'm thinking that, hold on a sec, I'm thinking where I've got the rhubarb at the front of the herb bed, obviously it's not going to do much this year, so I thought I'd get this terracotta planter planted up with some herbs and just put it on the front there, just to fill that gap while the rhubarb is getting going. Oops, that's my marjoram, needs a bit of a trim. Random metal sticks. I can't remember what I put under this cardboard. I think it was leaves. Not entirely sure what to expect, but I think a lot of it's going to come off and get chopped up, and then I'll bring it back later as a mulch, because all of these leaves went on very whole, they were quite dry. And then this cardboard I'm going to move over there where I've lost some. The only disappointing thing today is I'm going to have out all my gorgeous chard, which is a good note to self for when I plant the chard this year. Instead of doing it there, because that will be potatoes next year, is to plant it 3 beds down, so that this time next year, any chard that's left, I can just leave, rather than dig it out for the spuds. Oh, it seems such a shame to get rid of it, but it's in the way. The potatoes need to go in. Such beautiful glossy plants. I'm hoping as well that obviously this bit of cardboard, the leaves, what have you, have just helped to stop this bed from getting absolutely saturated, soggy. Oh, I need to come around that way. Yeah, hopefully the soil isn't going to be as sort of saturated and horrid as it normally is for me at this time of year when I get to do this job. This little bit of protection, I hope, will have prevented that to some degree. Morning, Rusty. Coming to inspect the works, are you? Look at that. Every time. Where does this plastic come from? Oh my goodness. Obviously, stuff blows in, and I think the foxes are partial to playing with bits, so they bring bits in. As I'm pulling all these out now, I mean, look, it's a beautiful plant, isn't it? As I'm pulling them all out now, my brain is, of course, turning to, what am I going to cook them into this afternoon when I get home? Because they're all going to need cooking at once, because otherwise they do wilt really quickly. I'm sure you've noticed that too with your garden veggies, compared with, say, the supermarket, is that once they're picked, you leave them even for sort of 24 hours in the fridge and they start to wilt. And you think about shop-bought veggies that seem to stay firm for a week or two. That doesn't seem right somehow, does it? Anyway, less chat, Vivi, more harvest. Gorgeous. Right, well, I'm going to carry on with this, get this all over up to the shed. I'll probably what I'll do is, until I'm actually ready to go, oh, and there's Poppy too,
until I'm ready to go home and actually cook something with these. I'm just going to leave all the roots on for now, so I'll do the trimming of everything at the very last minute today, because if I leave all those roots on for now, it will just help them to stay fresher for longer. Oh, massive worm. Sorry, did I bash you on the head? And I'll just put them somewhere in the shade for now as well, because it's such a beautiful sunny day. Sunshine and no roots, they'd wilt in a second. Right, let's get that all to the shed, and then the fun starts. Okay, so that's the remnants of the cardboard off, and you can probably see very easily what remains of. It was a combination of leaves and just last bits of rubbish from the autumn that I put on here in terms of it composting down. Well, I wasn't expecting it to. This was about mulch and protection. But there are some areas like this which were obviously a bit damper to start with, which have really started composting down. So what I'm going to do with this sort of more dry, twiggy material is just take it off for now. And I'm going to give it all a bit of a strimming down in my big Dalek bin, and either let it sit there with the other brown compost, as I was explaining the other day, leave it there as brown, and then just add a little bit whenever I'm making some green compost, or trim it down, and then I can always bring it back as a mulch in the summer. We'll see. I'll decide that when the time comes. The soil underneath is looking lovely. Let's have a look. Look at that. It's not compact like it would normally be for me at this time of year. So, hurrah! I think leaves and cardboard in the winter as protection and a little bit of composting is going to work well for me with my new mini perma beds. Oh, it smells good as well. Where things are starting to rot. Yeah, it smells good. Right, I think I can start making some trenches now. Yeah, I'm pleased with how this looks. And again, it's not too wet. Let me see if I can sort of show you. Again, often at this time of year, even when it's had the green manure on it over the winter to help protect it, it would be absolutely sopping and unmanageable at this stage after we've had 10 days or so of storm and rain. So yeah, I'm chuffed with that. That's worked a treat for me. Yay! Oh, that's a bit of a wet patch. I should probably warn anyone that's a neat freak. Now, I normally am a neat freak, but my trenches and the mounds I make next to them never are particularly neat, because, well, these mounds won't last long. It won't be long before I start dragging all of this back down over all my lovely emerging potato tops. And of course, the other thing about having my mounds like this means, you can probably tell it is a little bit of an effort. But yeah, by having these mounds here, it does mean that if I've got really tender little emerging shoots, and there's suddenly a danger of frost, I can immediately just draw all this soil over them to protect them. If we got to the stage where I had no soil to draw over them and we were in danger of frost, of course then it would just be a case of get the fleece out. one of those days where I'm thinking to myself, it's a good job I didn't waste any money on a gym membership. But I am hoping now, with all my new perma beds, that over the years there will be less and less digging for me. Look after my knees and my wrists. Just need to get the worms to work harder. Oh, that reminds me actually, as I'm digging my trenches today, I need to find a bucket of worms, just a few worms. I'm going to transfer some worms over to my mini hugel cultures on the deck. Yeah. Oh, let's go and get a bucket now, because there's tons of worms appearing. Yeah, let's do that. There's just a few to start me off in this first bin. But look, isn't that a gorgeous sight? Oh, a bit of shadow, aren't we? Beautiful, healthy, big fat reeling worms. Oh, just gorgeous. Hello, beautiful. How are you? You all right, mister? Or Mrs? Well, actually, they're both, aren't they? Mr. and Mrs? Mr. and Mrs. and Mrs. I don't care. I'm just happy you're going to be in your new home in a second. So let's get those in. Stop playing with the worms, Vivi. Just let them do their work. This is some spent compost, actually, that was in this planter last year. So I just thought I'd get that in there, get them covered over, because it is quite a warm, sunny day. And hopefully they'll be happy in their new home. Right, dig another trench, find some more worms for that little mini hugel. Yay! Oh, sorry, let me get you covered up too. I don't want them getting sunburn or drying out on such a gorgeous day. That's a good job to get done. So this is going to be 2 rows of new potatoes. I'll probably be able to fit about 10 in each row, between 8 and 10. Thing is, when I'm digging the trench that side and piling up, obviously some of the soil falls down this side, but not to worry, because it's so loose in here that as I do each spud, I can just move it aside a bit, get that spud nice and deep, and look forward to spying the first new green shoots. Yay! There's something about getting the spuds in. Oh, it's the real start of the year, isn't it? It's the first planting in the garden. Could it be any more exciting? Oh, the things that make us happy, eh? The sight of a couple of spud trenches. Well, I better get on with the next 2, hadn't I, for the main crops? So as a change of direction for my muscles from digging, I thought I'd just pop over and water my cold frame stuff. Check there's no weeds in the herb bed, what have you. And look, I'm so excited. This, I think, the label is very faded now, but that's lovage. I think that's my lovage coming back. I'm so excited because last year it was really tiddly, so I didn't harvest from it at all. I wanted it to, just get established. I'm sure that must be what it is. And then here, just in front, there, and there's another just there, just next to the weed. I think that might be some of the lilies that I planted last year that didn't come to anything, and I didn't think they would. There were some that Gary found in the back of his shed. Didn't want them, didn't have any hope for them because, frankly, they were a little bit soft. But, oh, exciting times. New growth. Isn't that a beautiful sight? I mean, it's not very beautiful. It's a little bit triffity and ugly, but it's beautiful for the fact that it's coming back. And I would have missed it today. As you can see, it's not dead obvious. It's a bit more obvious because I've scratched the soil away now. But if I hadn't been doing the sweet peas, I don't think I'd have noticed it. So that's both the lovage And the sweet Cicely putting in an appearance. I can't tell you how happy that makes me. Oh, and also, yes, I think I need to get on with pinching out the tops of the first sowing of the sweet peas. Yay! Happy, happy days. Goodness me. I've still got tons of chard. I'm trying to give it away. I've just given a big whole bunch away to Kay across the way. Gary's down now as well, so I think I'll go and I'll grab a bunch and offer him some and go and see what he's up to on his plot. Yay! People are coming back to their plots. I love it. Yeah, let's go and have a catch up with Gary. Fab. So Gary's going to have some of that chard too. Brilliant. But it's definitely the day for all of us to attack our lovely London clay soil. Gary, look at you standing on the 30 years.
Feeding this and it's still like this.
So what's gone in this over the years?
Sand, sharp sand, compost every year, a raft of other stuff from feathers, as in duck feathers.
I remember the feathers going in because it looked like the BFG and the giant from Jack and the Beanstalk had had a massive pillow fight.
The fox had a great time after the feathers.
But it just shows, doesn't it, you know, you've been working this soil for 30 years, adding, and it's still lumps up, clags up. And the thing is, getting this done now, if we were to have baking sunshine for a couple of weeks now, you know that this bed would basically be concrete, wouldn't it?
Within minutes.
Within minutes. Oh, well done. That's a good dig done today, though. So what's going to go in here? Actually, let me come further back so folk can see just how lovely and big and long this bed is. How long is this bed, do you reckon?
It's about 22 foot.
22 foot by about 4 foot wide. And what's going to go in it?
It's going to have 2 rows of leeks here and 2 rows of shallots there.
That's a lot. So you're going to persist with doing leeks despite the minor?
I'm going to do 1 more year.
1 more year. We say it every year, don't we? Never again, and then we do 1 more year.
The problem with stuff comes into the country, like I think leek moth came in 2003, and the problem with it is it's sort of southeastern London first, so we've got it big time here.
Yeah.
And every year, you know it's like Vivi, it's just every year ruined.
Gary, honestly, because you saved me last year with your leek seedlings, which was brilliant, but then I came to get them all out. They absolutely wrecked.
And it's right through the leek, isn't it?
And it's just heartbreaking, you know. Look, we go to all this effort of getting our beds ready and nurturing our seeds.
This
and
is going to have chicken manure on it in a minute.
Oh, good
some
stuff.
Fish blood and bone, just as a general feed.
Excellent.
The fox will love that. It'll all be dug up in the morning.
Do a bit of second digging for you. So when will you actually plant your leeks?
Probably this weekend.
Wow.
Probably this weekend. Well, the shots are going this weekend. Leeks maybe a bit further.
Yeah.
They're not quite big enough to go.
So I said no to the leeks this year, but I am going to try them as a excuse me, as a direct sown crop, and I'm going to have them out really little when they're like spring onions before the leaf miner can do any damage. We'll see. Right. Yeah. All right, lovely. Well, I tell you what, you've only got about 6 more foot out of 22, was it? Did you say 22 foot?
Feeding and the raking and the netting to stop the fox going on it. And then...
I'm going to let you get on it. You know, the only reason I've come over for chat is because I want to break from my digging. I'm sick of digging.
Well, you
right.
were here before me today, so I've got plenty
Well, all right. I'm going to leave you to get on with it. Enjoy the chard. And I'm going to go home and cook mine up as well. You're very welcome. Happy digging.
If you'd like any tops of kale,
have you seen mine?
You have got. Okay, we're all doing the same thing, aren't we?
Yeah, we're all trying to give
Let's
our.
take them to Sainsbury's on the way home and see if we can
set up a stall, sell them outside. Brilliant. Yeah. All right, Chuck. Have a happy dig. I'll see you later.
Yes, wishing time. Take care, both, everyone. Speak to you soon. Good.
Look, actually, I could just stand here all day and watch this. I'm not going to. You crack on, I'll get on with mine.
It is nice to just sit and watch somebody washing down there early on.
It's way better than actually doing the work oneself. Right, I really am going to leave you to it now. Ta-ra, Chuck.
Ta-ra, take care.
Gosh, what a thoroughly pleasant little session this has been today. My absolute perfect kind of day in the garden. A combination of doing something sort of hard and difficult, not hard and difficult, hard and physically challenging, the spod trenches. Loads of little pottering, tinkering jobs. Kay's been here, Gary's been here, so had a nice little tea break at lunchtime with Kay. That was really nice. just catching up and talking about plans for the year and just generally enjoying a bright day. It is getting rather dark and cloudy now though. We're not supposed to be having rain, but now that it's clouded over, the temperature's dropping a bit. Woo. So it's pretty much time for me to wend my way home. So I haven't planted the spuds today. Excuse me. I hadn't actually really planned to. So now hopefully that the trenches are mostly dug out. One of them isn't quite, I'll explain in a second. But now those trenches are pretty much dug out. Hopefully the sun can get into the bottom of them and start to warm them up. I did put my bare hand down into the bottom of the trench and feel the soil, and it still feels a little bit chilly, but it's not too sopping wet, so that's really good. So a few days in this lovely sunshine we're getting, and then I'll be ready to pop my spuds in. The fourth trench I was digging, the last one, now I don't quite know why. I don't know if it was under a path, where there was a path last year, but it all seemed really quite compact and claggy and horrid compared with the other three trenches. So all I've done for now is, rather than sort of dig and lift it out and mound it up, it would just sit in a solid lump on the top of the mound. After a few days of sunshine, it would bake to concrete, it'd be useless. So all I've done with that final trench is I've sort of forked it all over, just help break it up a bit, let some of the warm air get down in there, let it dry out a bit, warm up a bit, so that, yeah, when I come to plant, because it's loosened up considerably, I should just be able to put the trowel in, reach down and pop a spud into the bottom of a hole. So exciting, love it. Yeah, so great catching up with people, doing some jobs, enjoying the bird song. They've really been singing their little hearts out today. It's beautiful. They all just want a mate, that's what it is. You know, we think, oh, bird song, isn't it beautiful? It's just all the birds getting randy and territorial. So on that delightful note, I'm going to say cheerio to you all for now. I will see you soon, I hope. Probably planting spuds next time, or I might do something else in the meantime, just give those trenches a little bit more time to warm up. I'll decide in the next couple of days. But until then, cheerio, lovely people. Get outside if you can, have some fun out there, but whatever you do, take care of yourselves and stay well.